Hello, hello, and welcome to Sacred Democracy. I'm Maddi Cheers, and I am very, very happy to welcome back this week Joanne Angel BarryColon. She is a reverend. She is so many things. I'll let her tell you a little bit about this. But this week we are talking about sacred self-care. And the reason we called it this is because when we speak of sacred democracy, and for those of you that are new to the show, sacred democracy is the concept that there is a spiritual element to the very style of government we call democracy, that it is the only style of government that allows for people to explore themselves, that gives them the freedom to choose who they would like to be. It's not just about choosing your leaders. And actually, I could argue that we've gotten away from the sacredness of our democracy, which was originally based in the Haudenosaunee Great Law of Peace. So part of any sacred obligation, sacred practice, is something called sacred reciprocity. And what this means is that you get something, but you also give something. And so what we're talking about today is how can you take care of yourself, not just in this crisis, but all the time? How can you improve your healthcare? And in terms of the whole country, in terms of our country as a community, when you're taking care of yourself, that means you are giving back. Because ultimately, when we look at the statistics about healthcare in this country, we see that we are spending lots and lots of money on things like heart disease and diabetes, and these things are actually lifestyle related. Most of what we see in terms of heart disease and diabetes could be taken care of with diet and exercise, with changes in lifestyle. And so Joanne is a real Reverend Joanne, is a real expert in this area. And I just love having her on the show. So I'm going to go right to her to talk about why this self-care is sacred healthcare also.
I love that opening. And why is this a sacred in regards to self-care? To start off with, self-care is extremely important. And why it's so important is because we gain control of our own health. And I believe that we should all be advocates of our health, knowing exactly what your blood pressure is and what it should be, what your insulin level is and what it should be, what your cholesterol number is and what it should be. The same as every woman knows what their weight is and what they think it should be. So why should those other numbers be any different? Because once you have an understanding of those numbers, then you have a real basic understanding of what your health actually is. And then you can determine from there what the number is, how far away are you from the baseline of the numbers, and what you might need to do to get your numbers to the actual guidelines. And it could be as simple as just changing your dietary habits and exercising. Now, theoretically, let's say exercising might be voodoo for some people because they're like, oh, I'm going to have to exercise. Yes, you need to exercise. Our bodies were meant to move around. Our bodies were meant to get up off the chair and move and get the blood circulating. Now, ironically, it's very interesting that when those who suffer with high blood pressure, when you think about high blood pressure and you think about the body moving creates blood flow, which then decreases high blood pressure because your body's flowing. So, I mean, to me, it's like a no-brainer. It's like, why is it so difficult for people to want to exercise? And I always bring it back to the table on, well, it may not be the point of so difficult, but it may actually be the point on some that maybe they don't feel like they deserve to be healthy. Mm. And I think that's a question that we need to start asking people. Do you want to continue feeling unhealthy? Do you feel like you deserve to be unhealthy? Or do you want to jump into the process of being healthy and feeling like you deserve it?
Exactly. And I think that rather than beat up people about not accepting the responsibility for their own health and therefore accepting the responsibility for all of us within the community, because the healthier you are, the healthier the community is. As soon as we start condemning people for their poor lifestyle choices, we lose them. And that's a lot of what happens, I think, in the industry itself, is you look at some of these commercials and it makes you feel like there's something wrong with you if you don't have a Peloton in your house, if you don't have, what that thing I can't stand, that new thing about how the mirror, where you're looking at yourself in the mirror and exercising. I'm like, no, we're not self-centered enough. We should now exercise out of a mirror. And I know it does make it feel, though, to people that I can't afford to exercise. This is beyond my reach. This is only for wealthy people. I'm not in that class. I don't deserve it. I didn't become, it sets us, as I've heard you talk about before, some real emotional triggers. And that's at the root of why people are not making their healthy lifestyle choices. And
I'm glad that you actually brought up the fact that they can't afford to exercise. Because I think as much as we all are complaining about this COVID-19 and how terrible it actually is, I've actually looked at it as, this is like, from my point of view, I think COVID-19 is a blessing. Because COVID-19 has actually shown people that, we can all exercise and it can be free. I mean, you can go outside and take a jog, or you can, or just in your household, you could do squats, you could do lunges, you could do whatever exercise you want to do, and it doesn't involve money. What involves the money portion is making sure you're doing it right. In regards that, again, safety and being injury free. Maybe investing in, a personal training session just to make sure you do it correctly, but doesn't mean you need to hire a personal trainer forever, just to make sure you're doing what you're doing correctly. And with the COVID-19, I mean, there's so many trainers out there who's offering free services just to the sake of getting people to move and doing it the right way and keeping themselves busy.
I know. And it's an opportunity, too, to discover new things, to discover forms of exercise that have a spiritual connection. I mean, you can find free classes in Feldenkrais technique. You can find free classes in Qigong, in Tai Chi. And we know from research, talk about people that don't like to jog or even walk very fast. Qigong, Tai Chi, dance has more aerobic benefit and less damage to your body than jogging. Jogging is not for everybody. It's not for most of us.
Exactly. I don't think jogging is for anybody. Nevertheless.
Right. I'm with you.
Yes. And I'm glad you brought up dance, because I'm sure I'm sure you've watched my show. I offer, especially during the month of May, I'm offering Come Dance With Me dance party every night for the entire month of May, where we dance for 15 to 20 minutes. And it's free. You know, and it motivates people to get up and move their body, which I think is important.
Exactly. And 20 minutes, that's important that you say that. The Aerobic Institute in Dallas years ago published that half an hour of exercise, the level of a brisk walk, not a fast walk, not a power walk, the level of a brisk walk, half an hour of exercise every day is the minimum. But then they also said you can break that into 10-minute sessions. You can break it into 20 minutes and then 10 minutes. You can break it into 2 15-minute sessions. So this is the word I feel that has to get out to people. And then the thing that you especially work on is getting people in touch with the triggers, the emotional side of it. Why don't you feel like you deserve to be healthy? Instead of condemning people for not making the choice or looking down on them, or saying that you are in some way less than I am, making them feel bad about themselves. That's already the problem. And that isn't healthcare. And that's where, just because you're healthy, that's back to sacred reciprocity. Just because you're healthy doesn't give you the right to make somebody else feel bad about themselves because they're there and they're not.
Exactly. And in reference to, as you were saying about the emotional component to exercising, I mean, theoretically, I'm also the author of a book called The Power to Release Weight. And when working on that book, I came to realize that many women, and even some men, but mostly women, tend to hold on to weight, physical weight, because of some emotion that they've experienced at some point in their life, that they've decided that this weight they need to have to protect them, to keep them from something that might have harmed them in the past. So when we think about people being quote unquote overweight, they may not necessarily be overweight because they're choosing to be unhealthy. They might very well be overweight because they're choosing to keep themselves protected from something. And now it's just a matter of working with that person to let them recognize that they don't necessarily need to wait to help them stay protected. They can find other ways, such as their higher self and higher power, to feeling more safe and secure within themselves, so they can begin the process of releasing the weight, which is the emotions, the things that we all carry. We all have, I like to say, we all have a little box that we have all these emotions that we've pushed in over our lifetime, and even past life for that matter, that we're walking around with. And many women may be carrying that weight and saying, well, I'm not ready to let that weight go yet. And that's okay. So when we think about the weight concept of it all, being healthy isn't determined by your weight.
No.
Being healthy is really determined by, again, your insulin level, your blood pressure, and your cholesterol level. That's what's being healthy. It's not about the scale, which is one of the reasons why I tell my clients when they constantly want to know, well, I need to get on a scale to weigh myself. No, you don't. You don't need to weigh yourself. Determine how you feel in your clothes, and even our clothes we can't go by these days. I mean, you buy a pair of jeans. I mean, a size 4. I know women who are size 4s who are taller than me and larger frames, and they're fitting into a 4, and I'm fitting into a 4. How's that possible? Because size is not accurate.
Right.
Unfortunately, you go and buy jeans. Like years ago, we used to use the whole tool as well. You can put your clothes on and see that will gauge you in reference to how you're doing with your weight. Doesn't really fit that category anymore. So the best way to really determine your health and how healthy you really are is how do you feel? How do you feel in your own body? Blood pressure could be relating to family history. So someone can definitely change their dietary habits and still have a slightly high blood pressure due to family history, and also maybe due to some stress. And right now with COVID-19, there's lots of people under a lot of stress right now. Yeah. So changing their lifestyle, such as dietary habits and exercising, maybe a little, if that's their tool to determining health, may be frustrating if they've done that and still not seeing those numbers go down. So I really believe the best way to determine someone being healthy is really how they actually feel. And if they are exercising and they have changed their dietary habits, but their numbers are still scaling a little high or on the higher side, as long as they are doing what they have to be doing, they're qualifiable as healthy.
Yep.
Even though their numbers may be still high, from my opinion. Because they're moving and their dietary habits are on track. There could be some other issue that might be contributing to the blood pressure being high or the insulin high, which goes back into what I like to call the metaphysical explanation to those numbers being high, which goes back into the emotions.
Right.
And unfortunately, the medical industry doesn't really have that understanding to, okay, someone's blood pressure being high, not necessarily due to dietary habits or lifestyle, but may just be high due to some sort of metaphysical thing that needs to be worked on. And once those emotions get addressed, they may notice their blood pressure drops, comes back down.
Exactly. We are not a separate body. What scientific materialism has given us in the last 100 years is this concept that we are divided. We are body, mind, and spirit. What conventional medicine teaches us is there's an expert for each part of your body. You go to see this doctor for your blood. You go to see this doctor for your heart. You go to see, and these people aren't talking to each other for the most part. And you're not that. You are one physical unit. You are not the heart, and if there's something going on in the heart, there's something going on in the rest of your body, and you have to treat yourself as holistic. That's why rising now, I mean, tremendously on the rise, are doctors who are functional medicine doctors. These are MDs who have left conventional medicine because insurance companies pay a doctor for a 15-minute visit. That's it. 15 minutes and a prescription. So we have become a country. I just read this statistic. Actually I didn't read it. I take it back. I was listening to a doctor speak this morning, Dr. Jeff Black, who was talking about how when he first became a psychiatrist, I'm really not sure of his age, 50s, 60s, but he said that it was 80% therapy and 20% pharmacology. Now that's flipped. Now it's 80% pharmacology and 20% therapy. You walk into an MD, a psychiatrist who's an MD, you talk to them for 15 minutes, they give you a prescription for some pharmaceutical, like an antidepressant, that, by the way, the research shows the antidepressants as they are formed do not work on people who have emotional depression. Antidepressants are for people who have an actual physical issue in their brain, and that only happens in 14% of us. So the reason we're here is also to help you become aware that what we think of as conventional medicine is no longer here to serve us. And that's my opinion, but I think there's a lot of research. I think the rise in functional medicine shows a lot of doctors, they can't get insurance reimbursement. You have to pay. They are making less money because they can't get insurance reimbursement, because they look at treating the whole person, which means your first intake with a functional medicine doctor or a naturopath, who they definitely can't get unless they also have an MD. They're not getting reimbursed. But they can't sit there in all good conscience and integrity and say, I'm only going to talk to you about your issues for 15 minutes. They're talking to you for an hour and a half, 2 hours. They're making phone calls to you. You can call them that they're not charging you for, you know, whereas this does not happen in conventional medicine. So I agree with Dr. Amy Myers, who's one of the leading researchers and doctors right now in dealing with autoimmune disease through all natural causes. All natural treatments, through diet and exercise, prayer, spirituality, meditation. She says, and she believes, and I think this is true, that we are on the way back. And COVID-19, where we talk about changing, we are on the way back to a medicine style that addresses actual individual people, because the research shows, the actual science shows that you cannot hand me an antidepressant and have it work on me, and have you, Joanne, take the same antidepressant. It's never going to work the same way. We are body, mind, and spirit, one unit. Exactly. Body, mind, spirit. There actually used to be a word in Greek, not that I remember what it is, but that actually expressed that. We've just separated it out since the Industrial Revolution mostly, but especially since Darwin, when we become enraptured by the idea that it's only the stuff we see in front of us that has any value. So now we're, but I believe, and I definitely believe, that this season that we're in right now is part of bringing us back to and away from this idea of materialism, that everything is only what you see, touch, hear, feel, and back into discovering our spirit, which, as you know, and as you talk about as a reverend also, is very important to people's health and well-being. Getting in touch with what is your personal connection with the spiritual world, spirit, a religion that you love, something that makes you understand that life is bigger. Life is supposed to have meaning. We're all put here for a reason. We all come in here with gifts, as the Haudenosaunee say, and the whole culture is supposed to enhance those gifts and get us to share those gifts with each other to make the culture better.
Yes. And when we think about the person, their well-being, the person becoming more connect with themselves, where they can become more aware and recognize, like when they do, let's say, wake up not feeling well, the first thing that they can learn to do is start to connect with their body and ask themselves, okay, so what's going on that this particular thing is showing up? We'll use, for example, anxiety. And we'll use that because I think it's a perfect example for COVID-19, where there's many people experiencing anxiety right now. And that anxiety can very well show up where in the heart center, they're feeling tightness and pressure, and even like their pulse rate is just out of control. And rather than having to rush to the doctor, because I would feel sorry for anybody who wants to rush to the hospital right now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But the idea is to sit there and ask, okay, so what am I feeling? What's going on in my mind right now? And what might be creating this experience for my heart to be feeling what I'm feeling? So it helps them to get more connected to their physical body. And then they start to ask questions. Where theoretically speaking, you go to the doctors or the hospital, if you had to, they're not going to necessarily ask you, well, what was going on before you started experiencing this? Which is a good question to ask ourselves. What was I doing before I started getting tight in the chest? And then you could sit back and say, oh, you know what? I just got done watching 3 hours of the news and hearing about how, like, they're still not going to open the businesses right now, or there's still no money in the world. Or anybody will get anxious from that. So if you're someone that does experience anxiety, my suggestion is maybe not watch 3 hours of news at one time.
Right.
Maybe not watch news at all. It's really funny. Yesterday, I was on Facebook, and I don't know what it was yesterday. For the fact that it was a Saturday and it was beautiful out, there must have been so many different protesters going on yesterday in regards to different things going on. Every person who was on my Facebook page, one way or another, had something in regards to some sort of rally. And I'm like, after sitting there, I think I sat there and watched 3 of them, which was 3 too many. I decided, okay, I needed to raise my vibration because I started feeling my vibration get low. I started getting emotional, teary-eyed, started like evaluating like what's going on. And I'm a businesswoman. I own my own business. So I'm one of those people who was sitting there saying, I need the business to be open. So what I did was I turned off my Facebook. Well, not theoretically. I actually went Facebook Live and started dancing. I did my come dance with me early, and I danced for about 30 minutes, raised my vibration. I wasn't in that emotional space anymore. Right. I wasn't in my head overthinking about, oh my God, I got to get my business back and running. Right. I felt better because I redirected my energy from all the anxiety that's being put out there in the world. And we do have the power within ourselves to change our direction of what we are thinking about. And I talk about that all the time in reference to, whatever the emotion we are feeling in the moment, if the emotion doesn't serve us, if it's a low energy emotion, you have the choice. You could stay in that emotion, or you can shift it to something else and raise your vibration. I myself always choose to go to the higher vibration, so I'm going to shift it. And that's also because I know how to do that. Many people don't know how to do that.
That's right. And that is a big problem. And I think that when you talk about the power of prayer, I talked about that this morning live on Facebook when we talked about, I do a show on Facebook on my page for the Women's Oneness Project called Poetry and Prayers. And when you read poetry, when you read prayers, and I read prayers from all denominations, right? I always start with the Thanksgiving address. This is a practice. And any gratitude, any time, you don't have to know a prayer directly about gratitude like I do, like the Haudenosaunee have. You don't have to believe in any specific religion, but we know from brain research that if you sit there and you start writing down all the things in the world you are grateful for, all the things in your life, if you just focus for just a few minutes on what makes you grateful, it's going to raise your vibration, as we say in the energetic healing world, but it literally raises your serotonin level, which is what makes you feel happy.
Yes,
So
yes,
turn
yes.
off the news and start writing down the things you're grateful for. And I know this is very, very difficult for people that are facing loss. We're small business people too, and we've been out of work since March 16th. We go into schools and bring in cultural programs, and we don't even know if we're going to be at work in the fall. But I think we're having a spiritual base is so vital, is it gives you that perspective that this is not all there is.
Yes.
That yes, this is difficult, this is challenging, but I have spirit, I have nature, I have all of this in my heart and mind and body that that I can tap into to keep me from, like you said, dwelling. And then part of it's just turn off the darn TV.
Yes, amen. Yes.
And Facebook, I'm like you. I see something come up on my feed that's either political or angry, especially if it like the second I see something written that has an angry tone, gone. That's it.
Oh yeah.
I knew.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, there's been a lot. I was talking to another friend of mine, and when we were talking the other day, he was saying there's a lot of people he's unfriended during this. But sometimes that's the best thing you can do. If you've got a partner or a friend that's constantly telling you the negative side of things, you're feeling great, and then you telling them how great you're feeling, and then they all say, well, but, or what if.
Yes.
The well butters and the what ifers, you need to distance yourself from that, especially at this challenging time.
Exactly. And I just want to add to what you were saying about the gratitude list and this learning from, working with different clients that I work with that come in such a really low frequency that sometimes a person cannot even think of one thing they are grateful for. And when I've worked with clients like that, what I usually recommend for them, because they can't think of one thing they're grateful for, and this is going to sound really funny, but I myself am a firm believer of this. If you're not able to think of one thing you are grateful for, then just step outside and go hug a damn tree.
Yeah.
Because believe it or not, and there's a lot of science to back this up. Hugging a tree, the energy that we get from hugging a tree is so stimulating and healing that just by hugging a tree, literally for like 3 to 5 minutes, where you literally wrap your hands or just place your palms of your hands on the tree, you will begin to feel healing energy, and that alone will help to raise your vibration. Now, I do want to point out, because I've actually done some research on hugging trees, because I wrote an article about it years ago. You do want to make sure that you're hugging a tree that's somewhat healthy, because unfortunately, we have a lot of trees out there right now that are not so healthy. So you don't really want to go hug a tree that might be dying, because you're not going to get the same energy from that tree. So you do really want to walk around and look at the trees, but you'll know the right tree to go and hug. And you will get a lot of healing from it. And then from that point, you may be able to raise your vibration enough to realize, like, wow, I'm grateful for hugging a tree. Yeah. And then it starts a ripple effect of, oh, I'm grateful for the fact that I came outside. I'm grateful that I'm able to walk, and so on and so on and so on. And I think for people, what people often think in their mind is that when they write out their gratitude list, that it has to be something huge. Right. And the reality is, no, just be grateful that, guess what? You opened your eyes today.
Right.
Because how many people in this COVID-19 didn't?
Right.
I mean, in all respects of it all. And I truly believe that, yes, many people have crossed over during this time, and it's sad, but it's also their passage, and I think we can have a whole other show about that.
Yes, we can do a whole show on impermanence. That's right.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, and living your best life by recognizing that you're not here forever, that you're going to die. I mean, one of the reasons we have such anxiety over this in our country is because we are a denial of death culture.
Yeah, we're afraid to die. People are afraid to die.
Yes, of course. And that's not unusual. Most human beings are afraid to die. But if in some way you can embrace the idea that in reality you are not going to be here forever, then it puts you in a position of actual empowerment because this is when I am here. I can take charge of myself. I can be responsible to myself and others, because there is no meaningful life without it connecting to other people. And I'm not saying, not like politicians do it, we're going to tell you what to do, or the negative side of religion, where you've got somebody up there telling you, do it this way or you're going to hell, because I'm no big believer in that either. But the sense that Dr. Black told an interesting story this morning too. He sadly has to deal with a lot of people at PTSD, does a lot of work with soldiers. He does a lot of work with people who are suicidal, and talk about not being able to be grateful. That's, of course, one of the worst. That's it. That's the lowest of the low. And he was talking about a young man who he was working with, and he just walked out, and it was a rainy day. Fortunately, as he said, it was summer, and he just laid in the grass in the rain in depression and gave up, really felt like he was giving up. Dr. Black thought about it, went outside, and just laid down next to him. Just laid down in the rain. He said he got wet, he got muddy, but he just laid down next to him, person to person, not telling him he was wrong for doing it, not telling him, come back in, it's raining out here, but laid down next to him until this young man could talk, until they could begin this dialogue and come back up from these depths of despair. And that's what I mean when you are out there looking for a healthcare practitioner. And believe me, I know it is difficult to go to somebody who does not take insurance. Yes. It is very difficult. But there are people who do take insurance who are better healthcare providers than others. And so really, if you're sitting with somebody and they're honestly concerned about you, that's the person you want to see. And if you can at all afford to even do a couple of sessions with a functional medicine person or a naturopath or a chiropractor or whatever it is you choose, whatever rings true for you. That's the other thing that this time is giving us. If you've never researched alternative medicine, if you've never even thought about it, it's like you said, there is so much free stuff online now. Yes. So many free seminars you can go to with people, and you'll get a feeling. You can get a feeling on Zoom whether or not it's authentic, resonates with you.
And it's interesting in reference to when you were saying about the soldier who was at his lowest point, and he decided he was going to go lay outside in the grass while it was raining. And believe it or not, as we may not even realize but he actually went to the most, what I would like to say, the most highest medicine there is. And he laid right down with Mother Earth.
Yep.
Right down on the earth, grounding himself, connecting with his entire spine, connecting to the earth, where the earth was actually nourishing him to raise his vibration. So him laying there, and then of course the other guy coming and laying next to him. I mean, he went to the highest source of medicine.
Yep.
And it's natural medicine where he was just able just to lay there and allow nature and Mother Earth to help him raise his vibration enough to move on to the next thing that he needs to do. And we have powerful medicine available to us that we do not necessarily need to go to a pharmacist or our doctor to get medicine. If we can learn how to recognize that we do have medicine all around us, and just being able just to tune into our bodies and recognize, whatever it is we are feeling, and just be in that space of, hey, this is what I'm feeling right now, and I just need to slow myself down, which again, I truly believe COVID-19 is a powerful time for us because it gives us this opportunity to finally slow down and be with our thoughts, even if the thoughts may not be the greatest thoughts. But gives us time. It gives us time with our families. It gives us time where we're not rushing to have to go from this thing to this thing, except those who are remotely working, where their schedules are really crazy right now.
Oh, yeah. Especially if they have kids.
Yeah, so I mean, but this whole COVID-19 is, from my point of view, is, again, I say it again, and people frown at me when I say it. I think it's a blessing because it's really allowing us to, since we can't go out we get to go within.
Exactly.
And when we get to go within, we get to realize who we really are. And we have the space to reinvent ourselves and have a rebirth of what is really important and what is not.
Yep. And I think there's something else you said that, well, first, just thank you for recognizing the fact that this man laid down on the earth. And maybe there was something inside of him that told him to do that, some vibration, some inner knowing that we all knew the earth was healing at one time. And there's been plenty of scientific studies, look it up for yourself, on earthing, what they call earthing.
Yes.
People healing or at least having this connection with the earth in one way or another, that if it doesn't completely heal them, there's stories about people being completely healed, but it's part of their healing journey. It's not a pill. It's not like, and the pill is a lie. There is no pill you can take on the market today that is going to cure your illness.
No.
It will give you, more than likely, it will give you a bunch of other illnesses. It might take away a specific symptom that you have. Mm-hmm. But you look, I mean, all you have to do is watch television, and, you know, most of us don't watch commercials anymore. But for those of you that do, there's something like between 14 minutes of drug commercials in every 1 hour prime time show. And listen to the side effects. Do you ever see anybody selling you a pill for anything that doesn't have 60 million side effects? And most of them, one of the side effects is death. This is not healing. That is not healing.
Exactly. Either death or, this can create depression.
Yeah, depression. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because people aren't depressed enough. You know, right now.
Exactly. And so we do have the ability, and we definitely have the accessibility to gain healing from what's all around us.
Yep.
You know, just from going within and trusting the intuition, so to speak, in reference that when your body's saying, you know what, I'm going to go sit outside. I want to just be outside in the quiet. That itself is another way to heal. Being outside in nature, connecting in the quiet, where you get to hear so many powerful things.
Yes, and being quiet, that is something, one of the big stressors of our culture is we never sit in silence. We are never quiet. And silence itself, quiet, is healing. You know, when we work with kids and we do this little guided journey with them so they can start this art project that we'll do with them when we're doing the TP program. And it's quiet, and they come up and they love it, and their imaginations have gone wild. They've said, I had one little boy who made a comment, oh man, this is like virtual reality in your brain. Oh my gosh, using your imagination, virtual reality in your brain. What a shocker. You know, so the opportunities to slow down, to be quiet, to use the imagination. Nobody's saying you have to be like this expert, you know, Tibetan monk meditator where you're sitting there and your mind really is empty. And, you know, that no one is saying that, but the sitting and appreciating the quiet and even letting your imagination run wild. Think of it, you know, just let it go. And you know this because you teach meditation. So I was actually wanting to ask you to please speak to the power of meditation and the power of breathing. Just talk about an inexpensive healthcare solution, deep breathing. You know, Americans, when they do autopsies on Americans, most Americans' lungs we've only used like a third of the top third of our lungs.
Yes. And I mean, in reference to meditations, there's so many different forms of meditation, but the easiest meditation is just bringing yourself back to your breath, and that's just really allowing yourself to literally take a deep breath in from the nose, and allowing that breath, from the way I see it, is traveling through your body and then bringing it back up and out of your mouth, where you really become aware of how you are breathing. And in that space of just breath, that itself allows you to ease yourself down into calmness. And when we think about breath breathing, it's again allowing you to listen to your breath, recognize as I like to say, the breath is your pulse, so that you can actually feel, you literally can hear the heartbeat where you might start off with the heartbeat being really fast because you're anxious. You're like, oh my God. Then eventually the heartbeat slows down, gets really calm and relaxing. And then before you know it, you're literally just focusing on the breath. So it's not a matter of like, okay, well, I have to have a mantra or I need to visualize. Like my favorite meditation, believe it or not, is chakra balance meditation and visual meditation. I love those two, where the chakra balancing is really connecting with the chakras and visualizing the colors and having them do all sorts of things for you and bring yourself aligned with the chakras. But then there's visual meditation where you can actually take, something that you want to visualize into your reality, and it's fun because it's like using your imagination to create the thing you want into your experience. But those who may not be so in tune with meditation, breathing meditation is the easiest way to do a meditation. And you don't have to do it for a really long period of time. 5 minutes a day can be as beneficial as someone who meditates for an hour a day,
right,
as long as you're developing into a practice. And I truly believe there are, I think it's 5 steps that I believe in reference to self-care. And those steps are daily exercise. And again, at least minimum 30 minutes a day, but you could do that in the three intervals where you do 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the afternoon, and 10 minutes at night. So you don't have to do it all at one shot. Then you also do your meditation practice. Again, 5 minutes a day. And if you need to, you could do 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the afternoon, 5 minutes at night if you want. Just to allow that practice to come in. And then making sure you're getting enough rest, because your body needs rest.
Yes.
Your body needs rest to rejuvenate itself. So sleeping is really important. And those of us who do meditate actually sleep better, especially if you're meditating before bedtime, where you can actually calm yourself down, get your mind out of whatever it is you've done all day and get into that peaceful space. You have a much restful night's sleep. And sleeping's not just about sleep, it's restful sleep.
Yep.
Because there's studies that's been done where people sleep, but they don't rest. That their mind is still racing. That would probably be mine. That would probably be mine, because my mind is very creative at night.
Well, I have to tell you, since I because of dealing with an inflammation disorder, an autoimmune disorder, I've completely changed my diet. And I can tell you that from doing the 5 small meals a day, which keeps my blood sugar even, doing as much clean eating as I can in this situation, it's not as easy to get the food that, the clean, organic stuff. But in just changing that, my sleep has completely changed. And sleep is where we're healing ourselves. So this, like you say, the meditating at night, and you do a meditation, right? Your 11:11 meditation.
Yes. 11 p.m. Eastern time. We do an 11-minute meditation, which includes a 1-card pull, which sort of sets the tone for our meditation. But those who come and join me, the common feedback that I've received from those who have joined is they have a better night's sleep.
Yes.
And by having a better night's sleep, they are less anxious during the day because they rested and they're able to deal with what's going on around them and also within them. And I think that's really important. And going back to when you were speaking about the changing the dietary habits, I think I love the fact that you mentioned that you're eating 5 times a day, because there is so much controversy in regards to what's the best way of an eating plan, and do we need to eat 5 times a day? Maybe we should only eat 3 times a day. Maybe we need to skip breakfast. And I have been a firm believer since I'm a little girl that breakfast, when you think of the word breakfast, it's called break fast. Mm-hmm. And I truly believe that if you're not having breakfast in your morning, it's like there's something missing in your day, and then it slows down the metabolism, which then in fact causes other health issues when your metabolism is slow. So I truly believe eating 5 times a day is extremely important, especially to level out the blood sugar. And it's also helping to fuel your body, so you have the energy to do the things you want to do in your day.
And we really have to take responsibility for exploring these things for ourselves. Do 3 meals a day, then do 5, see how you feel better. If you're the kind of person that eats and 2 hours later, you eat breakfast and 2 hours later you feel sluggish and tired, then probably you need to break that breakfast in half. I remember when I used to work with, I'm going to forget his name, this is years ago, but sorry, he used to be in New Paltz. He moved to Arizona. I can't remember his name at the moment, but he said, it's easy. So if you are having, if you're having eggs for breakfast, instead of having all 2 at once and both pieces of bacon, it's not that there's anything wrong with eggs and bacon. There might be for you, you might need to explore that, but so break it. Have your 1 egg and bacon, then 2 hours later, have the other egg and bacon. And you should throw some fruit in there, a little carbs, so that your blood sugar shoots up.
And the other thing I want to touch on with that in regards to when we talk about, whether breakfast is causing you to be sluggish or not. Sometimes it's not so much about the breakfast is causing the sluggishness. Sometimes people just overeat.
Yes.
Where, and again, there's nothing wrong with bacon, but if you're going to have those 2 eggs and you're going to have bacon with that, and then let's say you're going to have fruit with that and the bread with that, that's a lot of food to consume in one meal.
Yep.
So that itself can cause one to be sluggish. So maybe it's just a matter of really learning your portions. So this way here, you can have the breakfast. And from my point of view, if you're eating 5 times a day, your portions should be small. This way here, you're not going to fill up, because it's not about filling yourself up. It's about having enough nutrients to fuel your body so you can do what you need to do till the next meal.
Right.
And when you can get to that point of that next meal and eating again another small portion, I don't think you'll feel sluggish because you're eating small. And you're just allowing your metabolism to burn up what you're utilizing, because it's a small portion, not a whole big caboning plate. Right.
Yeah. And this is where the aspect of food and emotions really does come into play. I mean, I know when I've had this discussion with people on a political level, they're always like, well, poor people can't afford this. Well, that's not entirely true. And more of the problem is education. More of the problem is that there's this weird thing that happens with people who are not in the mainstream, who live at a poor level or poverty level, where if you're looking at TV and you see an advertisement for Oreo cookies, and you are living on food stamps, if your Oreo cookie is you're going to buy the Oreo, the more expensive brand, because it makes you feel like you're in the mainstream.
Yes.
So it's a matter of re-educating not just the people who are at the poverty level, and we don't have time to get into the benefits of actually changing education so that people will actually.
That's another show.
That's another show, but it's on all levels. So to go in and try and re-educate people is not easy. It's not going to happen fast. These are even the solutions that we're talking about here today. These are not, if you're a person who's looking to change a lifestyle or to get more in touch with being fully healthy, it doesn't happen overnight. It's a commitment you make. It is something you have to realize you will have to work at. It takes effort.
Yes.
And that is also the problem of the way conventional medicine tells us to be healthy, is because we've been brainwashed into the idea, I'll take a pill. If I do this pill, I want a pill. Give me the pill. And we didn't start out that way.
Mm-hmm.
Even me growing up, even when I was growing up, our doctors were not like this. Our doctors did care. They weren't restricted to the 15 minutes. My pediatrician was wonderful. Dr. Tramer, we'll never forget him, used to trade my dad. My dad would fix his cars. He would fix us, or his washing machine, or his whatever, And that is the way conventional medicine used to be. He didn't jump on the antibiotic bandwagon because he had been a pharmacist and he knew giving antibiotics for a virus was going to weaken the antibiotic when you really needed it. So
exactly.
He didn't do that. But people now it's become, like you said earlier, the medical industrial complex. And we as people have to face that, deal with that truth, and demand that it change.
Yes.
And if we're not in a position to demand it for the culture that it change, then we can demand it for ourselves.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And the other thing I want to add into our list of self-care, we spoke about meditation, we spoke about exercising, we spoke about, dietary habits. Another thing I want to bring into this, which is really important, is water.
Thank you. Water.
Water. Because again, in regards to everything that we're experiencing, it's very easy to want to grab the soda or want to grab the, the alcohol, whatever it might be, just to make us feel good. But the water is another way to keep our bodies healthy as well, because you're keeping your body healthy with water. You're staying hydrated. And hydration is the key to keeping everything flowing. So we need water. And we need to drink it as much as we can. I mean, from my opinion, I don't think there's such a thing as over drinking water.
No.
I don't really think.
Yes, I mean, people have died from it, but yeah. You're really crazy over drinking. With that woman that took a bet or something and bet that she could drink like 5 gallons of water and ended up killing herself. But
exactly. Well, the concept is, which I hear this all the time. Being a personal trainer, it's like, okay, well, you're going to indulge in, drinking 64 ounces of water at one shot. First of all, you want to drink water throughout the day. You don't want to consume so much water at one time, because ideally you want to allow your organs to get used to the fact that you're drinking water. So drinking water, like I would say drinking water every 30 minutes throughout the day will keep your body hydrated and also prevent you from killing yourself from drinking water.
Right. And I think too that people make fun a lot of the power of positive thinking. But when I'm in reading Dr. Will Cole's book on inflammation, and this has become really epidemic in our culture. Inflammation, autoimmunity disorders, and the connection with inflammation. And there is no pill that's successful at dealing with this. They only deal with symptoms. And in his prescription and his recommendation, which is very similar to what you're talking about, he talks about water. And he talks about exercise and, the 5 small meals. And, so instead of having the whole sandwich, well, he also inflammation, there's other dietary restrictions, but, you have the half and then later you have the other half. So it's exactly that. But the other thing that he says is that you have to have the positive mantra. It's worth the 5 minutes a day sitting there, and he gives a whole list of them. One of my favorites is where he says is my body is powerful and it can restore itself.
Yes.
Yes. And that could be your meditation, is just this focusing on this positive, this power that you have in yourself. So Joanne, we have like 1 minute. So yes. I want you to sum up, give your contact info, let everybody know how to get a hold of you.
The easiest and best way is through my email address, which is healingwithin76@gmail.com. I check it every single day. Leave your questions, comments, whatever have you. And everyone watching today can definitely take advantage of a 30-minute discovery session, which is complimentary. You're welcome to it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being on again. I totally appreciate it. I'm Maddi, Maddi, at womensoneness.com. If you have comments, or go to the Facebook page for the Women's Oneness Project. It's a public group. Please join us. We have men in there too. So have a wonderful, healthy, safe evening. And thank you, Bobby Lacera, everybody at Strong Island Entertainment and Strong Island Radio. And thank you all for listening. Peace, love, and rock and roll. Go dance, okay?
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.